a pleasant good morning to another edition of the Star Good Morning Show here on Star Television. We broadcast live from our Media One Center 3 Mama Street Bookfields in Freetown. My name is Abdul Rahman Kamara. My guest in the studio, I have the Public Relations Officer for the Ministry of Basic and Senior Secondary Education, Brahma Michael Toure. He's here to talk to me pretty much so on since the free quality education was launched on the 20th of August last year. It marks exactly a year today, and also the reopening of schools, which is slated for the 2nd of September 2019. Brahma, good morning and welcome to the program.
Good morning, thanks for having me.
Also here is the Executive Director and Founder for Legal Link, Lawyer Rashid Doumbouya. He's here with me to talk to me much more on the impact of the law for non-lawyers. How has it impacted the lay public in terms of understanding critical issues bordering on some aspects of law? Lawyer Rashid, good morning, welcome to the program.
Thanks for having me. I'm grateful.
Top stories in the program: the Sierra Leone Water and Public Health Training Workshop hosted by the U.S. African Command Environmental Security Program, the U.S. government and the U.S. Embassy in Freetown, and the Center for Disease Control and Prevention and the U.S. Geological Survey has commenced a 3-day training workshop at the Russell Blue Hotel in Freetown. Sierra Leone has on Monday 19 August 2019 donated 30 landlines phone to the Ministry of Defense at the Defense Headquarters Tower Hill in Freetown. And we shall also be looking at where the Sierra Leone Women's Engineer, together with the Freetown City Council, has launched the first Women Climate Mentorship Program in West Africa. The launch is aimed at empowering and inspiring the next generation of women climate leaders. All these, including sport, will be part of the program. But let's remember that the Star Good Morning Show is proudly sponsored by Rokel Commercial Bank.
SimCorp allow old and young to make deposit and withdraw cash from their account at any time and anywhere. With Rokel Commercial Bank SimCorp, you can send and receive money at any place and any time. Rokel Commercial Bank don't make life better for we all.
Welcome back from that commercial break. We move along with the program. The Sierra Leone Water and Public Health Training Workshop, hosted by the U.S. African Command Environment Security Program, AFRICOM, the Center for Disease Control and the United States Embassy in Freetown, has commenced a 3-day training workshop on public health and water sanitation at the Russell Blue Hotel in Freetown. Here is a report.
The Sierra Leone Water and Public Health Training Workshop, hosted by the U.S. Africa Command Environmental Security Program, U.S. Government, the U.S. Embassy in Freetown and the Center for Disease Control and Prevention, and the U.S. Geological Survey, has commenced a 3-day workshop at the Radisson Blue Hotel in Freetown. The Ministry of Water Resources and the Ministry of Defense will co-host, and participants will include subject matter experts from Sierra Leone, South Africa, and the United States. Representing the Ministry of Health and Sanitation, Dr. Vandy intimated that the objective of the training workshop is to promote cooperation and collaboration between participants.
Yes, the One Health approach is like the international, so to speak, anthem now for approaching epidemics and emergencies. Because of maybe the global change or the global warming, the effect of global warming and global change on the way pathogens are behaving. Now we're having a spillover of pathogens from the wild, from animals and from the livestock into humans. Like Ebola is one of them, rabies is one of them, Marburg is one of them, Bopomali virus is one of them. So because of that experience, we are now saying for us to be better prepared, we need to use the One Health approach to make sure we don't leave any stone unturned. Bringing the Minister of Agriculture, specifically the livestock and the wildlife on board, the environment as well. The Minister of the Environment is very important because we are all humans and animals are living in the environment. If we are affecting negatively the environment, it also have to reflect to the type of diseases we get and the type of outbreaks we get.
Carl Rija, Chief Officer of Security Corporation, said that the event includes discussions on board technical topics in water preventive medicine and societal issues. He revealed that The 3-day training exercise on public health emergency response, tabletop exercises conducted by the U.S. Center of Disease Control and Preventions will allow participants to walk through scenarios and discover strengths and weaknesses of current plan.
Yes, absolutely. So this meeting is an opportunity to bring together people that normally don't get to see each other on a day-to-day basis. So we have members of the Joint Medical Unit from the Republic of Sierra Leone Armed Forces Urban Force Barracks that have come down. We have people from the Joint Forces Command on the military. And then from the Ministry of Health side, we've had doctors and administrators that are able to attend. Dr. Vandy from the Ministry of Health gave opening remarks, which were quite excellent. And also several NGOs and other entities that have been able to come out here to Radisson despite their very busy schedules to give some time to work together and learn to develop some frameworks for increasing the cooperation between the non-governmental organizations and different ministries within the government. Our goal is to help Sierra Leone and the government of Sierra Leone and NGOs become the best it can be for its own people, and that is our interest in what we are working towards. So, you know, we're trying to be as much team players and facilitators as we can. We were asked to come in and help facilitate the workshop, and we're happy to be here. The biggest goal is to increase relationships and engagement and cooperation amongst the entities within the government of Sierra Leone, and also to create relationships with some of the U.S. organizations that have come out to support. In my experience, some of the greatest things happen when people are able to just spend some time together and discuss common problems, and then hopefully projects can come from that and potential solutions can come from that in the future. There's a great gathering of people here, and you never know what 3-4 years down the line will bring out of discussions that happen here today. And so that's the goal, is to kind of get an idea of projects that can be undertaken, what different organizations are doing in the country at the time.
Over the 3 days, participants will collaboratively identify opportunities to improve interagency cooperation, enhance the institutional framework, and strengthen capacity to respond to water-related public health emergencies in Sierra Leone.
Once more, let me reintroduce my guest in the studio. Rashid Doumbouya is the Executive Director and founder for Christian Lawyers Link, Christian Lawyers Center, otherwise known as Legal Link. Is here to talk to me much more on how the introduction of law for non-lawyers has really impacted the lay public in understanding critical issues bordering around the law. Once more, Rashid, welcome to the program.
Thanks for having me.
Brahma Michael Toure is here to talk to me on the reopening of school, which is slated for 2nd September 2019. Let me start with you, Brahma. We've now seen where efforts by the ministry are ongoing to build and sustain a policy on school reopening, short as the one we have for the NPSC and the BECE exams, except otherwise that particular day stand to be the slated date for the reopening of schools. How far is the ministry's preparation in readiness for the reopening of schools?
Well, thank you, man, for having me on this program. Yes, indeed, we are trying to build a policy around school reopening, because usually it's a very serious problem, first day of school. In the past, it would take probably a week or so before kids start going to school, as well as teachers. And so that takes away from the contact hours that our pupils are supposed to enjoy in the classroom within an academic year. They're supposed to enjoy anywhere between 1,100 and 1,150 contact hours within the academic year. We don't want 1 minute of that taken away from them, especially if we're talking about quality in our education, because attendance enhances quality. And so if we are able to keep them in school for the number of hours that they're supposed to be there, that in itself is learning, more or less, because no matter what, if a child attends school for 1,150 hours, chances are that child will be able to learn something. And so we don't want to take away from that. And so that's the reason why. And this came as a result of a committee that the minister
put together. It's called the Standards Committee. This is the committee that actually suggested that schools should reopen on the 2nd, so that we don't eat too much into the contact hours of the kids. And so even though we have skepticisms and concerns raised by certain parents about the date, but as it is, it stands for now because of that very reason of not actually consuming contact hours that kids are supposed to enjoy.
So what is the ministry actually doing to ensure that school materials, supplies to be specific, will reach pupils in the various schools before?
Well, plans are ongoing for that. You know, we already have 75 containers of teaching and learning materials and sporting materials in country, and they are being put in a temporary storage here in Freetown in preparation to distribute them to the various warehouses or stores in the districts, where they would onwardly be distributed to the respective government and government assisted schools, and the local councils would be taking the lead on that to help in that distribution. And apart from that, plans are also underway to make sure that fee subsidies are paid to the respective schools before the start of the academic year. And so Ministry of Basic and Senior Secondary Education and Ministry of Finance are currently working on that to make that possible. Of course, like I said, those teaching and learning materials will be distributed, and we're trying to make sure that they're distributed before schools reopen. It might not be possible to distribute all, but we will do our best to make sure that we do as much as we can. And so these are some of the preparations. And of course, negotiations are almost being concluded on what should be in the package for teachers. They are not concluded, but they are at an advanced stage. And hopefully before schools reopen, we'll hear something about teachers, because it's key. And so all of these things are taking place simultaneously as we look forward to a very successful reopening of schools for the second year of the free quality education. Last year we had a very successful reopening where I went to Kono and I saw teaching taking place on the very first day. Classrooms were filled, everybody was effective on that day and throughout. We distributed 6 million pieces of exercise books across the country to government and government assisted schools. We distributed maths and English textbooks as well, and other teaching and learning materials were also distributed. Of course, 43 billion was set aside for first term fees. A little over 38 billion of that money was spent to pay out to schools. A similar amount was put aside for the second term, and that was also paid out. And then third term also that just concluded, a similar amount was put aside and payment was also done. So in my opinion, if you're asking me, on a scale of 1 to 10, I would say we are at 7.5, 8.
As a minister, you recall this day today, August 20th?
Yes, we do. We do. Well, for some reason, we are not celebrating officially today, but the plans, as I speak, are on the way to celebrate that day. It would be sometimes later in the month, or probably early September. And so those plans are ongoing. But we recognize this day. This is the very day that the free quality education was officially launched by His Excellency, retired Brigadier Julius Maada Bio. And of course, that's the same day that he revealed to the nation what is in the package for the free quality education for a start. And so hopefully for this second year of the free quality education, he would probably also reveal what is going to be in the package. It would be whatever is there now, probably with something added, who knows. Well, like I said, negotiations are being concluded for teachers. Hopefully that would be part of the package for this year. Whatever it is for the teachers would constitute that little bit that would be added this year to the free quality education, and probably many other things.
Okay, still with me in the studio, he's Brother Michael Toure. He's a public relations officer for the Ministry of Basic and Senior Secondary Education. Lawyer Rashid Doumbouya, you are the founder and executive director for Legal Link. You, a couple of months back, you introduced a very important teaching aspect that is tagged Law for Non-Lawyers. How much have you taken the time off to evaluate how this program has really impacted the lay public in terms of understanding critical issues bordering around the law?
Grateful. Thanks once again for having me here. I'm always grateful, Starty, for giving us the platform. You're one station that is making a difference, and we pray and hope that other stations will emulate, because it's good to give people platforms to help to make the nation go in terms of education. So we are grateful, and it's free. You're doing this, so tell the manager that we are thankful and we are grateful. Now, Legal Link is here. In fact, somebody has described us as the Chatham House of Freetown, for Sierra Leone, generally. Where we develop policies that will push for legal and policy reforms in the nation. That's exactly what Chatham House does in London, the UK. All right, you need to have a body of experts that pushes the state towards policy and legal reforms. And that's exactly what we're doing. And I'm sure this program fits directly with His Excellency's free education, quality education agenda. Because it's free, we are doing an open education program, and it's one of quality. Because when you see this stuff, and the feedbacks we have been having are just mind-blowing. For example, even yesterday, somebody called from Pujehun, that he has just read our topic 4, our analysis on criminal and civil law, the differences. And it was I think it's the president or so of the bike association or so. Can you imagine? The guy was so happy. Says he's learned a lot. He's not a lawyer, but he's now fully understanding where to take a matter when perhaps he has one down the line, and the remedies that are available in different courts. And that is exactly what we aim to target. So Law for Non-Lawyers, it's a program run by Legal Link with a specific aim and target to non-lawyers, people who are not lawyers. We believe law is one subject that cuts across all and sundry. And the more you are legally oriented as an ordinary citizen of Sierra Leone, the better for you. And the lesser the chances of you coming in conflict with the law. So that is the backdrop. We want to make our nation a nation that is conscious of their rights and of the laws, and lesser in conflict with the law. This is the aim of this program. So we target people like journalists, we target people like doctors, mayors, councillors, parliamentarians. They're not lawyers. They need to understand the law. They make law, but they're not lawyers. And so if you help expose them to understand some of the dynamics of the law, basic underlying principles, you will help them ultimately to be good lawmakers. All right? And this is the target. So we are talking on key issues. Now the next module we'll be releasing is on bail. Mm-hmm. We've realized a lot of controversies surround the issue of bail. So what are the laws saying in Sierra Leone on bail? What are the international laws saying on bail? What are the regional laws saying on the issue of bail? We'll expose ourselves, and then let's see how much we could stimulate a rethink on how we look at these issues within our domestic jurisdiction. So I'm so happy, and the lawyers who are working with us, I'm sure we are doing a lot in terms of legal and policy reforms. Our education is free, and now if I give somebody today from the judiciary even call us to now have an audio, like a PowerPoint thing that you can do an audio and then send. So people can also just put something in their ears and listen. Because just everybody knows Sierra Leone, and people are always busy to read a long, educative thing. Some might be bored. So the advice is now that we'll also be doing some kind of audio and video clips, short one, demonstrative, and that will be easily understood by the public. So that tells you how much people are appreciating our intervention.
Yeah, granted the fact that you're picking up on issues that seem to be pretty much trending. You mentioned the aspect of bail, which is becoming so contentious. There is another aspect which I believe the lay public will better want to appreciate if those issues have been touched upon. For instance, like demolition exercise.
Yes.
What really gives the right to demolish people's property? Under which circumstances?
Yeah, so
I
actually,
would have loved to ask a question. Under which circumstances does bail become stiff?
yes, so perhaps it would not be nice for you to preempt
I
the
really
paper
don't
that
want
is
to
coming.
preempt.
All
But
right,
I just want to assure our viewers that in our engagement today with the program, Familiarize with the Law, all of those issues are going to be looked upon.
Yes, yes, definitely. And I think I'll come basically with a work that we've done already, the research on the issue of bail, the international frameworks, the regional frameworks, and of course the domestic frameworks. And let's put it in a context and see the underpinning nuances regarding the issue. Because let's don't forget, the fundamental thing that surrounds bail has to do with the presumption of innocence. And it's in our constitution, section 23. It's clear. It tells exactly how we should treat accused persons that appear before us in courts. The presumption of innocence theory. That principle is sacrosanct. So I'll be exposing, the nation as well on the issue regarding the frameworks. I'm a human rights lawyer. And these are the things that we want to see ourselves doing. Because we are trained not only to push for legal and policy reforms, but also to empower our nation in terms of them being able to claim their rights whenever they are being threatened, abused, or violated. That is the goal. And Legal Link, I'm sure, is here as a blessing to the nation. Apart from the fact that we represent a lot of people who are vulnerable, and we do it free of cost in the courts, we also embark on legal education. Because that's one way we could reduce the number of cases that comes to court. We are doing a lot of work around the issue of acquisition of parties, and I agree with you. The other day we are sitting down to see how we could engage the minister, and we are even thinking of writing him an open, position paper surrounding the issue of land acquisition. It's good to have the zeal, which is key in even your ministry, but there's also what we call due process. That constrains the state, and this is unique. Perhaps we'll be also on the issue of due process versus your ambition to have things done. And due process tries to check you so that you don't do things in excess. So you may have the wherewithal, you may have the zeal, you may have the good intentions,
but Rashid,
that does not mean you should avoid
the most disturbing aspect when somebody is to be given bail, you will see specific attachments, specific consideration being attached that will tell you the legality or the authenticity of the document being presented, right, to the office of whoever is in that office, for him to be granted a bail. For want of better word, it not meets the bail requirement. All of these things, just in a way of incarcerating the individual in question.
Yeah, so maybe in the evening I'll be able to espouse a little on this. But let me just let me just whet your appetite around the issue of bail. I think the central question has to do with whether in fact it's a right or not. So that is the angle we're coming from, because bail we are coming from a rights-based perspective. It's a right to presume the accused innocent until proven guilty in a competent court of law. So the bail itself that corroborates or reinforces the presumption theory, that is sacrosanct. So if we don't understand it from that perspective, that granting bail reinforces the presumption of innocence theory in the Constitution, we will never understand it, and it's a right-based approach. So that is where we're coming from, that when you sit down in a court of law, understand the right-based approach in doing this, because it's about letting the accused understand that you are not in a court that will witch hunt you. And so even from the start, we will guarantee you your freedom and allow you to find your defense, to prove your innocence. That is beauty, that is awesome, and it reinforces the right under the Constitution. So that's the argument we'll be lifting up. So even though there may be other considerations, that is why it is not wrong for the judge or the magistrate to put in conditions that will ensure his recognition and attendance throughout the proceedings. Okay. So that the liberty is there. But to deny the condition, the right, that can be very devastating in a democratic society. So in the evening we'll be talking about this in depth, because I'll be referencing some sections, all right, and international frameworks, and also in our domestic frameworks, and see in fact where we are missing it as a nation.
Okay, I'll come back to you. Well, if you really want to enrich your experience, I will advise you follow the program at 5, with my guest going to be Lara Shidom, where we shall be delving much more on the aspect of build and also demolition exercise. When does it become pretty much illegal? But quickly, before I take another insert, a couple of weeks back, we've seen where the Chief Education Officer, Dr. Alhaji Mohammed Kamara, issued out a press release calling on banning all extra classes. You have the way students could encamp themselves, just find a reclusive area. They would tell you, will you go for studies when they're preparing? But the ministry over time have noticed some anomalies that do associated with those campisms, and the ministry is now frowning on short consideration. How did you come to such a decision?
Well, this has been ongoing for a very long time, and we've been getting the feedback, but more than any other time, this time we actually were able to see evidence of what those camps can actually do.
Okay.
In terms of that group that was busted by the ACC somewhere at Aberdeen or somewhere around there. And then, of course, other information that's coming from other camps about either materials being identified or people trying to help candidates who are taking the public examinations and all of that. And so it has become so rampant that when the ministry and WAEC together instituted the measures that prevented these kids from laying hands on the question papers before the examinations, you saw what the reaction. They jumped on the street, they were yelling and screaming and saying, take your free education if you can't allow us to spy, embarrassingly for this nation, and all of that. So that gave us a clear indication that something has to be done, and has to be done radically in order to put a stop to some of these things. And we know now very clearly that those camps are a breeding ground for all of the malpractice that you can think of.
But perhaps the most challenging aspect could be the aspect of compliance.
Well,
how will you want to ensure that?
Well, now the press release is out, so it's out in the public domain, and we'll continue to let people know that if you are caught, just like the public notice said, if you're a teacher, you stand the risk of losing your job. If you're head of school, the same thing. If you're a pupil, you'll be suspended from that school for an extended period of time. So you're losing. And so do not participate in anything that we have said should not take place in our school system. We don't care whether it is happening in the school environment or outside of the school environment. The bottom line is we don't want to hear anything about campism, about camps and everything. Because like I said, that's the breeding ground. That is where people ask pupils to pay money with the hope that they will get them the materials before time, or they will find ways to get them through the examinations. And so you see, it's a double standard thing, Abdurrahman. Parents who are supposed to help us protect the idea of disallowing people from engaging in malpractice are also part of the perpetrating community, because they are the ones who would give this money out to the kids to go and pay for this camping thing. You already know why that kid is paying that money. The only reason why they're paying money to get to a camp is because you hope that they will get the materials before the examination and they will pass. The notion that parents just want to see their kids in a college or university, regardless of how they got there, is very troubling for this nation, Abdurrahman. You know, it's almost like nobody now cares about whether or not this child has actually learned anything in any college or university. What is important to parents is, I get 3 pikin in a college, or 2 of me pikin and don't graduate, things like that. That's, to them, is the pride. But whatever they have to do to get that false pride, I'll call it, is very devastating for this nation. It's crippling our education system, and it's not good for us. At some point down the road, if we don't stamp our foot on this, our certificates will be very worthless and meaningless in other countries. People will throw them at your face when you point them to them, because they know we are saturated with all of this malpractice in our examinations and everything. And so that would not actually tell well for this country. So that's the reason why we're saying, if we had not done that before, that does not mean we are not supposed to do that now. We're saying we want free quality education. You cannot enhance quality if we have malpractice all over the place. That is not quality. But like I have said before, Adaman, and I keep saying this, it's so devastating that that child fails the NPSC and they get them through to junior school. They fail the Beke, and you see them in senior school. They fail the WAS, and by some miraculous way, they are in university. Why does it take the university more than 90 days to know that this person is not supposed to be here in the first place? That is something that we need to have a national dialogue around, because it's very critical for our education in this country. How did they go through 4 years of university education and graduate sometimes with a first-class degree after they have failed the NPSC, the Beke, and the WAS? That requires a national dialogue, Abdraman.
Rashid is a university lecturer. Maybe he will.
Yes. So let me come in here a little. You know, I don't know, man. Maybe because of my human right biasness, I really don't like a society where we are too quick to ban. I don't know. Maybe it's because of my human rights bias, because you see, banning is not a sustainable way of solving situations. In fact, let me tell you.
Are you challenging the decision of the ministry now?
No, I'm not saying generally. Anytime I hear the word banning, it tells me that people are not going to sit down to really discuss and find solutions to the underlying problems. Now, when you ban, you don't solve. Actually, there are many camps now going underground. That is the danger of banning. You're not doing anything. You're just saying, now go and hide it properly as you do it. Now, let me tell you something about this issue about spying. Let's be frank about this. I'm a lecturer. Look, there's a source where the materials come from. So it's not really about targeting people going to have their study. There's a source where I'm a lecturer. When I draw my questions, nobody draw the question for me. I draw the questions alone. And I carry it 30 minutes to the exams office for printing to the exams. 30 minutes. I cannot even give them a day. So it's in my custody. I stand there when they are printing it. I get them again in my hands, put them in my envelope and hold them, and I go to the hall. I will stay in the exam hall, distribute them, and watch my students get the script back and go. Look me, there's a source where it comes from. And most often that's not targeted. We are targeting the end point. Where is the source? Well, where is the question coming from?
I have an idea.
That's the point. So
I have an idea.
The question where it's coming from, I believe, is the best way to deal with it.
Yes.
Let's stop it from where it's coming from.
Okay.
And then we can have a clean.
Now, Rashid, you made a very salient point. But onwardly, there has been this deep-seated perception about the West African Examination Council colluding with rogue citizens. But I tell you what, by way of ensuring transparency, Brema will explain that better. By way of ensuring transparency and accountability in the entire process of conducting examinations, the West African Examination hired the Council of Principals. Am I right, Brema? Mm-hmm. They regulate the whole conduct of the exams. So tell me, the Council of Principals in turn hire teachers. They will tell you, you are responsible for the supervising A, B, and C. Mm-hmm. So tell me, where's the credibility of all of these individuals concerned that at a point in time would have allowed themselves to be swayed off to a point where they will, in my words, leak all of these papers? They are not centrally coming from the West Africa Examination Council.
Yeah, so
it could be there is a possible conduit. Brema, you can explain this better.
Yeah, so
this has been a deep perception.
Just to pick it back from what Rashid said here about this knee-jerk reaction thing, this quick fix thing, and that's what we've been doing all throughout this time. Mm-hmm. And that is why I keep emphasizing now and again that on some of these issues we really need some kind of national dialogue around some of these issues. Yes, you can ban if that is what you think would be the quick fix, but then have something going on after that, because banning alone, like I said, may not be enough. Okay. Because when you ban one thing, there is the possibility for those people to find another way of evading the system.
Exactly.
It's the same way as when we put a ban on certain goods, people begin to smuggle them. It's the same thing. You ban classes, private classes or camps, they will find something else to do that is similar to camps. So we need to think about engaging the public. Appeal to people's emotions, appeal to people's conscience, appeal to people's sense of integrity. Let them understand that this is an integrity thing. This is a national imperative, and therefore let them have that social pride in them to say, I have this result and I can stand by it and I can defend it anywhere. When they begin to have that perception, then it helps a whole lot. But just banning may not be enough. Okay. It's just a quick fix thing. That, okay, don't gather anywhere. But what if we don't gather and there's social media? We can go on WhatsApp or do whatever. A lot of things could happen without having to actually come together. Okay. And so there are a whole lot of things that could be done.
So I simply concur.
Yes, let me add to what he just said. In fact, the danger also, when you do that blanket thing, it's, what about those who are genuinely going to seek, knowledge, in these groups, and then, get work stimulated, and then get, what about them? So you're just, painting everyone with a broad brush. That is the risk about banning. I don't like it in a society that is democratic. It is wrong. You're just telling me that you're not thinking of ways to dealing with the problem. Tweak your mind. There are many ways to dealing with it. I have argued that there is a source that the paper comes from. Withdraw the questions. Let's target the source. How does it go to the students? How? My paper, I'm 6 years now old in university. It has never leaked. It will never leak. How? How? I'm the one doing my question, holding it, not even giving exam officers. And I will take it there 30 minutes to the exams. And I protect it. So how will it leak? So this is the point. The point is there's a source it's coming from. Let's deal with the source. And then you will see what will happen, whether they will get any leakage. So the point of banning, is about other people's rights.
I hope I'm not making any explosive statements here. But I equally don't want to take any brief for the West African Examination Council. They have been seen on the wrong end. Probably they're doing a very genuine job, hiring council of principals to actually regulate the conduct of the examinations. But by and large, there is a conduit. And possibly, there is a conspiracy in between those teachers that are hired to actually conduct the examinations in concordance with the conference of principals. And when there is a collective domination now, the repercussion goes to, it's like a transmittive repercussion. It goes to the West African Examination Council. So that is it, you're right.
It's a syndicate. See, over the years, people have seen me as someone defending WAEC and everything. No, I'm not doing PR for them. But let us face the reality.
Exactly.
When they had to spend extra money in the last 2 years to create a mechanism where those questions will not leak at all, they have the sacks that are coded. And so the manufacturers, they know the code. They don't release the code to the head of national office here, Mr. Arnold Kamara, until 30 minutes to the examination. And then he would not release that code until 15 minutes to the examination. We saw what happened. Yeah. No leakages, and so kids were jumping out on the street and yelling and screaming. So that is just an example of some thoroughly thought out mechanism.
Exactly.
As opposed to the quick fix. The quick fix can always solve the problem for that moment.
Yes.
But what next after that? So that is what WAEC has done. Maybe what we now need to do as a nation is to maybe continue to capacitate WAEC so that they can continue with that process. And so once we are able to make sure those examinations do not leak, the papers do not leak before the examination, we have solved one problem. Okay. Now the next problem would be, don't allow them to spy in the hall at all by capacitating the monitors and the WAEC marshals. See, so it's stage by stage. Once you're able to do that, then you're able to begin to solve the problem. Until that time, we will be doing this knee-jerk stuff, this firefighting thing, and all of that. And that is not good for a nation.
And there are reported instances where privileged rooms were created for specific students.
Exactly.
Now I wouldn't imagine that. You're telling me, go to this privileged room and take your exam form, which due consideration is given to.
So now all of that is now being squashed out. Okay. We don't need all of that.
Okay.
Put them in one place, let everybody be in that place. But if you participate, Abdurrahman, in the process of trying to look into results that have been seized by WAEC, or withheld by WAEC, and you see what's happening, you will be amazed. I have participated in that process like several times. You see collusion. Scripts from Freetown here, schools in Freetown here, having the same everything, every dot, every T that is missed, every comma that is missed, is same with schools in Bo or Kenema. How does that happen? Same handwriting, same wording, everything that is wrong there is wrong here. Freetown and Kono or Bo or Kenema. You see that very clearly.
Okay.
And you begin to wonder.
Well, I say if you hate him for what he is, you like him for articulating issues around education for the past.
I think he's been doing
for the past 10 years. He's
fantastic
Mike
work.
Kenture, the public relations officer for the ministry. Let's go. Telecommunications. As part of their aggressive marketing strategy, the Ministry of Defense, under the leadership of the professional head, Lieutenant General Brahma Burasese, and the Minister of Defense, retired Colonel Simeon Nasuru Sharif, yesterday received 30 landline phones from the Sierra telecommunication company in Sierra Leone. My colleague Alfie Barry has details of this report.
Sierratel is a limited liability company that is owned by the government of Sierra Leone. But over the years, Sierratel has fallen down the radar when it comes to quality services. As part of its rebuilding and transformation strategy, Sierratel has started partnering with institutions in order for them to utilize the services that Sierratel provides. It is against this backdrop that Sierratel has made some donations to the Ministry of Defense and at the same time engaged them on the importance of using Sierratel as their first choice. Albert Bangura Will is the Director of Marketing Sierratel. He gave a background to the engagement.
In our network, we are also having plans to extend the landline coverage to other areas. We are also working on seeing how best the 4G services could be extended to other areas. And overall, we are indeed a one-stop shop provider that provides mobile voice and data services as well as fixed line services for reports to be sent across to them on issues of security threats in and around the country or even out of the country. So we just to think the military could best be served if they have the fixed line or the landline service, which could be looked across all their operations and all their subsidiary units, and it will actually be stable and very much secure. That is why we actually identify the military as one of the very important institutes. Well, comparatively to the mobile phone service, I think it's very effective in the sense that it hasn't got the challenges of charging like the mobile phone, and it's also very safe and secure, and it's very much sustainable, because if you consider the challenges of the mobile phone in terms of how people transact, it's not very much secure, it's not very much safe. So the landline service actually gives that sort of security. It hasn't got power challenges, and it can be used as a very good service in the homes. It can serve a whole family, and it's also, above all, very much cost effective.
Albert Bangura Will added that Sierratel provides the most affordable services in the country. He furthered that their landline service is a modern system that is connected to the fiber optic cable and assured that it is reliable and fast. He stated that their immediate plan is to take the fiber optic to every home in the country. When receiving the items, the Deputy Minister of Defense, Colonel S.N. Sharif, thanked Sierratel for such an initiative and promised that his ministry will fully utilize their services. He, however, advised that Sierratel should clearly state the prices of each of their products.
Very much interested in the steps. For instance, after having this presentation, which has to do with the proposal, we go on to things what somebody really mentioned, that we have to pay attention to costings. You know, I want that slide to really come out, because so many of us are going to be interested in the products. But I only hope that my colleague will stay behind and really show that utter interest in this presentation, and to really come out with the next steps, you know, as the presentation goes on. Thank you. To say thank you to Sierratel. This is just the beginning of making sure we really identify ourselves, you know, with the environment that is sitting before us all today. In Sierra Leone, we are full of one thing that I will call the effects of social media, and this is one of the equipment pieces that will help that to be overcome. And the Minister of Defense, like the gentleman really said, the presenter said, that the security sector, we are looking at what is going to be there for our colleagues within the security sector. For instance, the police, the Office of National Security, the prisons, correctional center, all of us will be coming to make use of this piece of equipment, but in various hands, only to make sure that the goals are achieved. Thank you very much.
For Star TV News, Alfie Baru reporting.
Welcome back from the Star Good Morning show here on Star Television. We don't seem to have much time left. Now, Rashid, when I look at the last module of your education program, especially on the difference between the criminal and civil law, I took my time off to distinguish between the objectives of the criminal, the civil litigation that goes in for compensation, while for the criminal it goes in for punishment. Those are very critical elements in all of this.
So that's what you should understand, that when you go with someone to a criminal court, do not expect money in your pocket, because even if he's fined at the end, the fines go to the state, not to you. So because the objective of the criminal court is to punish, so that others are deterred from committing the crime. And for a civil court, so go to a civil court where you can get compensation at the end if you win up to win the case. So it's a marvelous distinction, and I think we've received a lot of accolades for that exposition that we have made in that open education program. And like I told you, we are coming up with bail. Bail is so key. People want to understand, what are the laws saying on bail? What is the practice? On which grounds bail can be granted? On which grounds it could be refused? What are the international laws saying? Because Sierra Leone is a member to many of these signatories, many of these treaties are at the international and regional level. So are we also looking at what the international laws are saying, or are we just focusing on our domestic jurisdiction? Because that is also the slider. And I think as a nation, we are part of the global system. And when we sit down to administrate, the context, international context, should also be reflective in our domestic jurisdiction. All right? So thank you so much for having us. Of course, with respect to the issue of education, this is an education program as well, so we all fit into the education discussed this morning. And let me also end by saying the teachers and the lecturers have a role to play also in all of this. Because trust me, if you see students clamoring, to find other ways, out of legal ways to pass an exams, again, it speaks about perhaps what has been taught them, the level of, because trust me, when you teach your students well, to a point where you explain the theories, you give them the notes, you capacity them, there's less likelihood for them to really go to look for other means. I'm telling you, because I have experienced it for 6 years now. When we go through the modules and I plainly teach them, trust me, there's no qualm of spine. I've had my 6 years examination, not even a day to have somebody say cut spine, because there is that patience, to let them understand the issue. So again, teachers have a role to play. So it's a comprehensive thing we're talking about. When you don't teach these people well, trust me, and they have the ambition to pass, they will go by whatever means to have it done. So again, as we bash them, let's also take responsibility and perhaps do more to create that enabling environment where students will now be, avoid or sit as a incentive to really spy in an examination. Okay. That's my last word.
Brother, let's end by looking at how you coordinate your activity with local councils. I'm sure they are key in the execution of your activities, especially with schools of country.
Yeah, well, as you already know, basic education is a devolved function to local councils. Yeah. The only reason why they have not taken that on board squarely is because of incapacitation here and there, financial incapacitation and all of that. But that's their domain. And so working with them, we always want to make sure that they are an integral part of those processes, distribution of books, transportation of books, or teaching and learning materials from one place to another, from one school to another. And so they are always an integral part. ONS is also always participating in that, in the distribution process. Anti-Corruption, ACC, is also part of that committee, or the task force as it is called, of distributing all of these things. And so local council is always going to be there, and we are always going to be very integral partners to all of the processes that have to do with education in this country as they relate to those devolved functions to the local councils.
Once more, as a reminder for the reopening of schools?
The 2nd of September. Like I said, we're building a policy around the reopening of schools so that we don't have any confusion, in much the same way as we have done for the Beke examination and for the WAS examination, except for one of those examinations when we now have the cleaning last Saturday. So because of that, we have adjusted that. But except otherwise, those days stand and we don't change them, so they are a policy. Same way, that's how we want to do. We want to make sure that if it's the 2nd of September or the first Monday in September, it's first Monday in September. So when you send your kids out on holidays, tell them to be here before the first Monday of September, because we're not going to change that.
Before I say thank you both gentlemen for sparing the time being part of this program, let me just reiterate the words of the Deputy Chief of Defense Staff of the Republic of Sierra Leone Armed Forces, Major General D.T. Otaluva, that forms of recruitment making rounds on the social media are not real forms of recruitment. Those were forms that were out since last year. The public will safely be reminded when the real forms of the 2019-2020 recruitment into the military will be out. So discard those forms. They are not the real forms. Those are fake forms. That's notices coming from the Deputy Chief of Defense Staff, Republic of Sierra Leone Armed Forces. Yes, Rashid?
Familiarized with law.
Well, in the evening, just be reminded that stay glued to your Star Television for your program Familiarized with the Law. Today, specifically, we are going to deal with bail conditions and also by extension looking at demolition of houses, demolition exercise, whether what gives the court the right to actually come up with demolition, how do you call it? Decisions by the court for people's property to be demolished. But the specific content of our discussion is going to be bail condition. Otherwise, thank you both gentlemen for sparing the time being part of the program. The program returns tomorrow with my colleague Mohamed Basiru Sanusi, which is purely entertainment. Till then, I have been the presenter. My name is Abdul Rahman Kamara. Have a nice day.